Evening friends, right now I'm here to showcase my project. I have named it Thynk. It is an interactive knowledge base. It is based on a concept called RAG pipelines and I have connected it to a user interface. I could have written a long LinkedIn post about this, but let's be honest, it is just boring. So let's do this on the video. I can show you and I can explain you how it is done while it is actually being done. So I have been working on a project that basically turns your documents into something you can actually talk to. Think of it as your own document grounded Q&A system. Let's see the RAG architecture. RAG has essentially three parts: indexing, retrieval, and generation. Now, here how the RAG system works. You upload any documents, PDFs, notes, whatever. The system splits them into small chunks, converts each into a vector, and stores it into a vector database. Vector is basically a mathematical fingerprint of a meaning or a context. It is, let's say, sentences converted into numbers, and it is stored into a vector database. Now comes the cool part. When you ask a question, we don't just search with that one sentence. We will curate 4 or 5 or maybe more if you want to, that much questions which will represent the same question but in a different perspective, and we will query the database for each and every question. But asking the same thing, why? Because phrasing matters. The way you ask might not match how the answer is written. Multi-query helps catch the meaning from multiple angles. These rephrased queries search the vector database and pull out the most relevant chunks, the ones most likely to contain the answer. We then pass those chunks along with your original question to the language model like Gemini to generate the final answer. Thus, the answers are more accurate and less hallucinating than the traditional transformers. That means you are not just searching the entire document blindly, you are not getting made up responses, and you are not wasting compute on irrelevant data. If your question is not related to the documents, the system just tell you that your question is out of the context. I told you, no hallucinations. And all of this happens in real time. You can add or remove documents anytime here, and it updates immediately. It's modular, efficient, and honest. So yeah, not an AI assistant in the, let's say, buzzwordy sense, because AI assistant is very cliche nowadays. More like a searchable brain for your own documents. Now let's see how it works. Let's go on the Google Scholar and pull out the most complex theory there is, and get the PDF, download it anywhere, and then you just have to drop it here. Okay, let's begin it. We will first run the application, and this is our live project. Now you can upload any PDF here. Let's get the PDF. So our PDF is uploaded successfully. Now you can upload multiple PDFs here. Let's say I have let's say this is about milk being harmful or not. So now you can select, let's say we select this document and we want to index that. Now chunk size means every chunk, every division this document will be divided into, its size will be 800. If you are more interested, then you can hover around it and you can read it. You can maybe pause. Overlapping chunk is for is to preserve the context between adjacent chunks. Now we'll start indexing. You can see it generated 497 chunks. So this document is divided into 497 chunks, and now it is getting embedded and indexed. It is processing. Okay, so indexing completed successfully. That is pretty much it. Now you can ask any question. Now let's see what that document really suggests. Let's go on any page. Let's say this Riemann surfaces. We don't know what that is. Let's say something is known as modulus for complex structure on the torus. I don't know. Let's create the question out of it. Ask that what is known as a modulus for the complex structure on the torus, and this results k, which means it will retrieve the nearest 5 documents from the vector database. We'll submit the query. See the parameters, or before we can see it is already being processed, and these are the results. Now the query parameter said it retrieved 5 documents and it has given us 5 variation. These are 4 only because the 5th one is the original question itself. Now these 5 questions, if you would read it, maybe pose it, then it will be same question represented differently. And this is the answer, that according to the context, I think this is tau, torque signs. Tau is known as a modulus for the complex structure on the torus, and essentially this is the answer. Let's say if I saw this word parallelogram. Let's make it a question. What is a parallelogram? Now the original document does not have anything which is the definition of parallelogram, and this is a terrible spelling. Parallelogram. Okay, still not. Yeah, let's go. And we submit the query. It will hit the vector database again. It will generate 5 questions. Only this time it says that based on the provided context, there is no information about what a parallelogram is. The text discusses concepts related to physics such as this, but it does not have any information about what parallelogram is. Now let's say we want to delete this. We can. And now if we index again, then our knowledge base is updated. Now here I have these terms and condition of Apple Media Services. Now who will read all of this terms and condition if I want just one answer out of it? Let's say out of these 29 pages, which is a very short, which is a very small PDF, it can be 3 or 4,000 pages long. You can literally upload books here. Now if you start indexing, it is already indexed. Now if I ask that what are the options for Apple Music plans, I submit the query. Same process. It is searching for answers with k equals to 5. K is, you can read, number of documents, chunks to retrieve. More chunks provide broader context, but it may introduce noise. It basically means that the more chunks you retrieve, the broader the context gets, and it can have some irrelevant knowledge itself. If you want it more strict, then retrieve less chunks, and if you overlap more, then the number of chunks it gets divided into will be more. So it is more of a trade-off situation here. So these are the 5 questions. If you would read, then it will be the same as this question, like how can I subscribe to Apple Music, what types and what are the options for the Apple Music, what types of Apple Music subscription, and it will give me the answer that there is individual Apple Music and family membership. But if I say Spotify and if I hit submit query, should not give me any answer. And this, the query is processed. Based on the provided context, there is no information about Spotify music plans. Context details the terms and conditions for Apple Media Service. This is how it works. Now, so let's take another example in which we will take two books. Now this book is of 20 MB. It has more than 600 pages, and another book which we will explore will be this. It is also a medical book. So let's index both of them together, but let's increase the chunk overlap and decrease the size of the chunk. This should increase the number of chunks by a great deal. And let's say index. Now it says that it has to, the chunk size is 7. See, the chunk size is 650 and overlap is 225, and it loaded 1566 docs and generated 15,711 chunks. Now let's kill this here and rerun this. Now this and the same two books gets uploaded, and we'll select those books and we'll start indexing normally. Now it should have less chunks, number of chunks. So now this has 10,000 chunks instead of 15,000 chunks, because when the chunks are overlapped more and the each size of the chunk is lessened, it is obvious that the size of the chunk, the number of the chunks would be generated would be more. Now we'll wait until this processes are indexed and we can start querying the database. So the book that the book is indexed. This is one of the book 238.pdf. Its name, and any content, let's say structure, superior, inferiority, and let's have this ask what it is, and this is, let's say we don't expand the query this time. So now it does not generate 4 or 5 questions, but it does retrieve 5 documents because the K was already 5. We didn't just expand the query, and the answer is this. Now if we delete this knowledge from the knowledge page, and sure enough it would just not answer because now it will be out of the context, and you can delete this file as well. Interesting example where we have indexed the Constitution of India. The Constitution is freely available on the websites of the Government of India. So we can ask questions like, in, let's say, what cases can we dismiss the President of India? President of India is supposed to be the highest power, and this is the answer, that if the President is found to violate the Constitution, then a resolution should be passed in the House of Parliament, and it should be passed with not less than 2/3 of the majority of the total membership of the House. Powers of opposition party in Parliament. This is the answer. Why the Indira Gandhi's emergency was a black period for Indian Constitution. His answer should be interesting. The provider because the Constitution, of course, does not have why the emergency that was declared in the era of Indira Gandhi's prime ministry was not legal. The provided context, particularly the footnotes detailing constitution amendments, strongly suggests that why the period of Indira Gandhi's emergency is considered a black period for the Indian constitution. Context reveals a series of legislative changes that expanded the government's power during the emergency. And this is a very interesting answer if you want to pause and read it. This is a very foundational answer, I would say. This is how it works. Now I have some books, but I think that those are pirated books, so I'm not able to show it right here. But the whole documentation and all will be available on the link which I will attach it, and you can explore it. That is pretty much it. Now this is and if you are really interested into this terminal side of what is happening, then see, this is the query. What are the options for Apple Music, parameters, and all of that. Thank you.